Heart first leadership isn't what you say, it's how you show up, how you regulate, how you communicate, and how you execute when it matters most. We are Heidi and Ryan Sawyer, and you are listening to the Heart First Leadership Podcast.
Welcome back to the Integrated Mindset Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Ryan.
And I'm Heidi.
And we're going to have a really great conversation with an incredible friend, teammate, Barb Oviatt today. We're going to have a conversation we want to tune in and listen to. If you're someone who really has big goals in life, you're here to grow, you want to make a larger impact, you want deeper connection in your life, this show is for you. So if that sounds like you, keep listening. If not, you can go ahead and tune out and find something else to listen to.
Yeah, plenty of options.
Plenty of options out there. We know how much information there is. So Barb, thank you for joining us. We're so glad to have you here.
Welcome, Barb.
To be here. Thank you.
So Barb, we just real quick introduction. We've done other podcasts before. I don't remember what number it was, but it was in the very beginning, and it's been 60 episodes or something like that since we had you on. So it's fun to have you back again. But Barb's an incredible yogi, martial artist. Mother of three, and just an amazing human. She works with us in our integrated mindset work as a coach. She is our first certified coach. Now there's obviously other people, many others that are being certified or has been certified since, but we're just so grateful to have you in our lives. And today we're going to have a conversation really mainly focusing on physical health and mainly the weight loss piece when it comes to the idea of how we use our mind to create a certain outcome or to achieve a goal, right? Like this is really unpacking like goal achievement, right? And Barb is somebody who has spent, I'm going to throw out at least a decade. Is that even?
Yeah, it's closer to 15.
Wow. 15 years helping people reach their weight goals, health goals, weight loss goals, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So before we get into kind of some of the maybe the narratives and the conversations that we want to have around that, Barb, tell me a little bit about, let's take me back 15 years.
Okay.
Even maybe further and say like, what got you into really focusing on helping people in this specific way?
Yeah. So first of all, just honored to be here. And I have learned so much from you guys as well. So just thank you for asking me on the show. 15 years ago, I was in the really heart of fitness industry. So that's what I've done most of my adult life is help people within the fitness industry, health clubs, that sort of thing, organize classes, all of that. And when you're in that position on the daily, someone's asking you how they can lose weight. Sure. Or sometimes it's how can I gain muscle or it is some sort of body composition question on the daily. And I was at a place in my life where I was teaching a ton of classes, like maybe 20 classes a week. And so it was really hard for me to maintain muscle mass and weight even. And so it was kind of the other end of the spectrum, but it's the same thing, whether you're trying to gain weight or lose weight, whatever it is, trying to find that ideal weight for you to help you feel your best is challenging one direction or the other. Sometimes it's even more challenging. I've worked with people trying to gain weight, and sometimes that's more challenging than losing weight. And so I had a friend that was coming to classes, and she had this program, Isogenics. I'm sure you've heard of it. And she was like, this has worked really well for me because ... It's super simple. And there's these perfectly formulated meals, and there's all these other components to it. And I was like, but I jumped in because she was, here, this worked for me. We had the same kind of body composition. And I tell you, within a week or 10 days, I felt completely different. And it was just the simple getting the right nutrition in my body for the amount of work that I was doing that changed everything. And after I had this experience, then I, had something to give people that came to me on the daily and said, how can I lose 10 pounds? Or now I'm in this phase of life. Maybe they were pregnant, or maybe it was menopause, or maybe whatever it was, primarily women, I guess, in these different chapters of life, this program could work for them. And So I started diving into helping people, getting a little more educated on macros and what that means and how that can help people and understanding those. And then once people understand their macros, their numbers, what numbers they need to hit and using apps or whatever, it was so simple. And that's what I was looking for, was like a simple solution for people like me who maybe don't really love to meal prep or, like some people love that. And I think that's really an art. And I love to hear that. That's not me. I like it simple. I like to be able to just get it done and move on to the things that I love to do. And so people who were in that same kind of category or really busy with work or busy moms or whatever it is, this was the solution to get good nutrition into their bodies and then allow their bodies to heal themselves, whatever it was, if it was cholesterol or, diabetes or whatever it is, if it was partly and always is partly nutrition, getting the right nutrition in, those things started to heal themselves. And I was like blown away by the science behind all of it and just understanding nutrition a little bit better. And then, I had a few cases where I was able to help and walk somebody through an enormous weight loss, like 100 pounds, and that's like, that changes your entire who you are. Right. Wow. It changes you as a parent. It changes you. This particular situation was a parent who wanted to parent, but couldn't do those fun things because he had to lose 100 pounds. Right. And watching that transformation really inspired me to just, wow, this is more than weight loss. This is human transformation. Right. And that's what inspired me in those beginning years. And then just watching people, add this into their lives, whether it's isogenics. I like that because it's simple, but, learning more about nutrition and helping other people understand that a little better. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the simplicity approach, and we're not here necessarily to talk about isogenics, but isogenics is a part of the puzzle. And when we talk about integration as a whole, like the physical well-being of a human being, their ability to move, their ability to feel good in their clothes, the ability to be okay with how they look in the mirror and like progressing towards that is a part of their overall well-being. Therefore, it impacts their ability to parent, their ability to lead, their ability to build a business, to reach their goals. And that might be one of their goals. So let's pull back a little bit further into, for you, Barb, when now that you've been doing this for 15 years, and somebody has this very same goal of a weight loss journey, which I have also been on, and isogenics was a part of that journey, and obviously a very specific fitness regimen, and there was also a level of mindset behind that. And I lost 70 pounds in my journey of weight loss at one point, right? Now I've put a few of those pounds back on, if I was completely honest with you, but I'm always within about a, 8 to 10 pound window of fluctuation. I'm able to handle that, So when someone's getting started, or maybe even has been on this journey for a long time, and there's a bunch of ebbs and flows and there's ups and downs, what is one thing that you see as a potential obstacle or a problem for somebody who's like, in that beginning stages of trying to figure out, okay, I'm ready for this transformation. What is something that you see as kind of an obstacle or problem on the front end of that?
That's a great question.
So as it's completely clear to me now, it hasn't been for the last, decade, as to why I can give people the science and be like, this is what you need to do. And this is what you need to put in your body. And this is just science. This is just numbers. This is math, right? It's going to happen if you do this. Sure. But then I would always hit this wall with people, and it's a mindset, right? If they did not have their why, like a really strong why and who they are. So what would happen is someone who's been overweight most of their life, if not all of their life, then all of a sudden loses 100 pounds. Well, they've only known themselves as this overweight person. And when they look in the mirror, that's what they see. All of a sudden they see this new person in the mirror. They don't know how to handle that. That's not a clear transformation. That's like, who is that? That doesn't feel right. And then boom, it yo-yos and they gain the weight back or part of it or something. And that was so frustrating to me until I was introduced to you guys and took the course. And then I think you remember me going, light bulb, like this is the missing puzzle piece in me helping people with weight loss. This is a bigger piece than like the science is just fine. Like you can use isogenics because it's simple, easy, cheap. I always say that, right? It's simple, easy, and cheap. It's a good way to use it. It's a good way to make it happen. Can you make it happen with other things? Absolutely. It's just math, right? So figure out the calculations. Isogenics just simplifies it. So I would get people to where, we'd be losing weight, we'd get there, and then boom, we would hit this wall of a plateau. Some people call it a plateau, always, and then I would shake up the macros and we would get a little farther, but we would always continue to hit these walls. And now I understand that it's completely mindset on that. They have to create who they are. They have to understand that, like, who am I? That's one of the weeks in the program, right? Is like, who am I? And then set up a huge why. Why do you want to lose this weight? Why do you want to transform, right? So if we're talking about transformation, like in anything, doesn't have to be weight loss. It can be, I want to have, in your last podcast, you were talking about how, if it was this house and you were changing the structure of it, like, why? You have to know why that is, right? It's the same thing. Why do they want to transform their body?
Yeah.
If you don't have that and that's not solid or who you are, it's not going to last. It's going to boomerang back into yo-yo, as people would say, back to this weight gain, every single time. Yeah. And so that's this huge frustration of weight loss for most people. But this right here, what we're talking about, this mindset transformation is the key. It's the missing puzzle piece in most, if you want to call them diets, whatever, I like to call it a lifestyle change. And this truly is like, let's change our lifestyle, but let's make this the biggest component of changing our mindset, right? Yeah. Because we can achieve anything when we shift our mindset. We know that.
I relate to the 20 pounds off, 30 pounds on, 25 pounds off, 40 pounds back on. Like that was for years. That was
not up here.
Yeah. It was completely these two aspects. And sometimes the why is not always necessarily clear, but I think the who is a more curious question to me of saying, okay, well, who do I need to be to actually achieve the goal? Because in all reality, whatever goal we are setting, whether it's business, relationship, health, life goal, doesn't matter what the goal are, goal achievement numbers are ridiculously low because the individual is not willing to accept that you currently, and this is true for every single one of us, you're currently not the version of you that's going to achieve that goal, because the experience that you're going to have in the process of achieving the goal is going to change who you are. So to be able to project forward and say like, oh, if I did reach X, Y, or Z goal in this situation, we're saying weight loss, if I lost the 50 pounds, if I lost, or even the 10 pounds, whatever it is, like who would I need to be? And then what then is possible for me? Because, and that's the why. Then what is possible for me? Because when I look in the mirror, I feel different. I see someone different. My self-concept is completely transformed, right? And when we begin to like get in the nit and gritty of understanding who am I becoming, who do I want to be, and what impact that makes, then naturally and spontaneously we have found that these like steps towards the larger goal become just almost automatic or spontaneous.
Yeah. I think understanding that, our body is just our body, we aren't our body. So, understanding that first, because this is all about body shape and composition. But once we take that away and go, well, you're not really your body. That's just how you get around. So do you want to feel better? Do you want to be able to go skiing with your kids? Do you want to have a healthier, longer life without, having to take medications and stuff? Well, then you've got to take care of that body that you live inside of, but that has to be the mindset of, you're not your body. So if your body's overweight, well, we can fix that. Right. And then you need to understand who you are and what your purpose is here. And then the sky's the limit, right? Like there's no limits what you can do.
I think what I'm hearing you saying, Barb, also relating to integrated mindset and the content there is like helping people to get outside of the story of what has kept them there or why they always wind up in that cycle. This is just the way I am. All these types of things that are narratives that are keeping people stuck in the same experience of life. And not able to actually make that shift. I was talking to a group of women that I'm taking through the program right now, and we're working on the previous week we just finished. We were working on recognizing patterns. You know that well in the program. And I said, it just because we recognize a pattern doesn't mean that we have to change it right away. Right? Because what we're working on first is building awareness around it. And I think that the subconscious is kind of sneaky. Mm-hmm. So if we think that we need to change every single pattern that we identify, we're going to have a hard time seeing those patterns. It's going to hide from us. Subconsciously, we will not be able to see them, won't be able to perceive them. So what I was saying to the group was, if I decide to change a pattern, and sometimes I'll decide to keep one because it's serving me in some way, I just want to make sure I like my reasons for it. Yeah. So I think that's important when you're talking about something like weight loss, because it's not about shifting everything all at once. It's about taking small shifts. And that's a lot of what we work on in the program. And integrated mindset is taking these incremental shifts to just change your perspective slightly, to let go of that one story that isn't serving you, to see yourself in a little bit different way, to see a new possibility. So have you seen that with your clients in your integrated mindset groups? And how has that kind of played out, that incremental shift in perspective? We are all leaders. If you're ready to stop waiting and start impacting your environment in a powerful way, we want to connect with you. Click the Book Now link in the show notes to book a call with a Heart First coach and discover what Heart First leadership can look like in your life and in your environment. Now back to the show.
Yeah, I think the key, like you're saying, is these little incremental shifts, just focus on one thing, like how can I be better today than I was yesterday, rather than this whole huge thing. And I think you're exactly right. If we're talking weight loss, and this can be applied to any type of a shift we want to make, but if we're talking about weight loss today, so it has to be like, how can I change those habits from yesterday to today? I can drink more water, right? Like that's one of the things. And so if that's all I do for the first few days is I'm going to drink, my 8 glasses of water every day, and make sure that happens. And then we create that habit or the morning routine, which is what we talk about a lot in the program, just getting that down. So it's not someone getting up and then first of all, not drinking water, but having 3 cups of coffee, then that doesn't set you up for success in that day.
I'm feeling called out right now about the coffee. Just kidding, Barb.
And it's all choices, right? Like I tell people, it's choices, like that is going to cause this. And I can, talk that all, till I'm blue in the face about all of those things, but you have to you can't take away everything that you love. I always tell people that don't take away. If you have coffee time with your spouse in the morning, and that is a time that there's connection and you're setting up your day, then that's beautiful. And that shouldn't change. Right. But then drink 4 glasses of water, shortly after that, and then, and have 1 cup of coffee, not, 3 or 4, and don't put a half a cup of creamer in there. Like there's these little shifts like you're talking about that can happen. Drink a better coffee, do your research on that. And so those are things that I love and can talk about so much about. There's choices. Everything is a choice point, right? Everything is a choice. So we can drink, Folgers coffee, or you can drink some low acidic coffee that's pretty good for you. There's a lot of that going on out there right now, right? There's all those things you're hearing about. So make those kinds of choices and still have the things that you love. And then as you make these little incremental shifts, like you're saying, okay, I'm going to walk a little bit more. I'm actually going to walk, like for some people, it's like actually go for a 10-minute walk every day, and those little tiny shifts then become this new you, and figuring out exactly what you want is I think like so key. You have to know what you want. You can't just be like, I need to lose 30 pounds before my daughter gets married so that I look better in that dress. Like that doesn't work, right? Well, it might. I can probably get that person or that bride to that place with that 30 pounds off and fit her in that dress in 3 weeks. But then, it's not sustainable because we didn't do the work, right? We didn't do all the work.
One of the things I want to highlight, I mean, talk about the idea of going inward for this outward transformation that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned this, one of the things we talk about within the program is this ability to kind of normalize in the sense of saying like, hey, you're not your thoughts. That's just a form of energy, right? We're not our bodies. We're something so much greater. And when we take our attention off of those things that feel so personal, and we make them just a little bit impersonal, we are able to allow for ourselves to kind of open up to just a little bit of space of compassion. And these incremental shifts, if they're done with a sense of compassion, then that's how they become sustainable and we break past those plateaus that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. I think that one of the things that as a human being that we naturally do is that we naturally get very, very involved and attached to the stories that have created our personality, right? Have created our experiences of who we are, right? And those stories can't just be flipped around in totality in one moment. Like, sometimes you'll watch a movie at night and you'll get all inspired and you're going to go to bed and be like, tomorrow I'm going to, change my life and my world. But reality is what you're saying is that our experience of life and who we become, and therefore whether or not we achieve the goals that we set out are going to be in the tiny, tiny little choices. In those tiny, tiny little choices that accumulate over time, I believe there has to be a level of compassion and taking our personal life a little less personal, to be able to open up, to be able to create those shifts. And that's, to me, what has allowed for me to sustain a level of growth and I continue to achieve goals I set out to, is because the second I achieve a goal, there's going to be an opportunity to show myself compassion. Because I'm not going to be there. I'm not that person. I look in the mirror like, nope, I'm not him. Or I get the next phone call and it frustrates me and irritates me right? And I react in a way, whatever it is that the goal is with business, relationship, like in the next moment, I'm like, oh, I'm not there. Right. And that's where a lot of people then just step right back and go, well, I can't do this. I can't do this. Right.
Yeah.
This is not meant for me.
Maybe they slip up on their plan. Right. And they notice they're unconsciously like going to the pantry or whatever it is. Well, like, of course you're doing that. You've been doing that for 25 years. It's not going to change overnight. Right. So then that is where that compassion piece comes in. It's like, yeah, this is kind of hard changing these habits.
Yeah.
But I can do it. And I can have grace for myself that I'm going to stumble. Like that's to be expected in any kind of change. Really, really important. That's why that's one of the 6 C's that we teach in the program, right, Barb? Compassion.
Yeah, I think it's a huge, huge one. I had a gal come in the other day and she was like, oh, you're going to be so mad at me. I haven't done very well. And like threw that on me. And I was like, oh, let's just reel right back into that because this has nothing to do with me. Yeah. And, like the whole, she needed to find compassion for herself. And so our whole conversation that day wasn't about the numbers on the scale. It was about her finding compassion for herself, that we all, stumble, like you're saying, right? Like maybe there was a vacation or something. And this 80-20 rule is so huge in my coaching with people. Is 80% of the time we're really doing it, right? We're doing the meditation and we're doing the nutrition and all of it together. But 20% of the time it's your birthday or you're on vacation, or you're out for dinner with your spouse. And those things are super important. That 20% is super important, right? That you're doing life. And then that's the human experience. Like, we're doing life. And then, oh yeah, I got to take care of this body, because if I don't take care of this body, then life isn't so much fun, because I'm going to get sick, and, I'm not going to like what I see in the mirror. And that's a thing, right? Like, we try not to, body image, but that's a thing. If I don't like what I see in the mirror, it affects a lot of things, right?
Yeah. I'm sure you've probably seen that a lot in your work, especially. I think there's a lot of, disproportionately, there's a lot of pressure on women, right?
Absolutely.
When it comes to body image. And you've probably seen that, the way that having a poor body image affects every other aspect of a woman's life or a person's life, right? We're not going to exclude men from this conversation here, but I think it does really affect women, because I think we can tend to project that onto other people. Maybe we feel poorly about ourselves and we have a judgment about the way that we look and project that onto our partner, right?
Our kids.
Yeah, right. And it affects every single relationship. So how have you seen that show up a lot with people in specifically working with them in weight loss?
Oh yeah, that's such a huge thing, right? And I think it goes back to, again, this idea of we need to recognize that we're not our body, right? It's important we take care of it. Otherwise life's going to suck. But, we're not our body, and really recognizing and having compassion for that is huge. And then teaching that to the people in our circle, and especially our kids,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the simplicity piece, somebody who's listening to this, and they probably have, if you're anything like me, you've probably have tried, and you've been back and forth and teeter-totter in your journey, right? And so we're talking about this ability for us to create a certain level of awareness, of mindset, of compassion and incremental shifts towards, being able to sustain and achieve goals, right? So my question, Barb, is beyond just the few things that we've talked about. Like, if you could give like 1 to 3, like things that somebody could really like bite on, chew on, think about for their own health journeys, for their own weight loss journeys, like, this is where a great place to start. And then obviously, if you're anybody who's really listening to this being like, man, I would love to have the support of Barb, like, making sure that we're reaching out and having those conversations, that she's available to have conversations. And whether it be a combination of isogenics, an integrated mindset, and doing, kind of getting their nutrition on board, and, or just working on their mindset, right? Maybe isogenics isn't for you. This is not a package deal. It's one or the other. Barb is involved in both. But before we go down that road, give me just a couple of takeaways that says, all right, I'm just getting started. I've fluctuated. I'm frustrated. I'm feeling a sense of almost feel alone in this journey. There's just too much information out there. I don't even know where to turn. I've tried this diet and that diet. And I don't even want to try to name all the different diets that have come out in the last, decade or two. Right. And we personally don't do diets. We do lifestyles. So what would be a couple of things that we could focus on, that somebody can focus on to gain some momentum and start working towards this incremental shift and start working towards a sense of compassion? What would something that would get some momentum going in the right direction for them?
I think first of all is educate yourself, like whether that's a sit down with me or someone else, and just understand the numbers, what are macros, like understand that, and get on a scan, and then have a baseline. So once we have a baseline, then we can go from there. So once we have the actual, numbers, the math, that weight loss part is simple to me. Like knowing how to get from point A to point B of just changing your body composition, that part's pretty easy. The other part of getting your mind in the game, pushing the plate away, closing the refrigerator, those are the things that are all up here and that are habit, like we're talking about, right? And shifting those habits, that's not super easy without having an accountability partner. So you can Google all you want. And I would say, like most diets, if you're going to use that word, they work, right? They all work. They've all probably been proven to work for someone, but everybody has to find their own thing that they're going to do. So the math is easy. The doing it is not so easy. That's where a coach is going to, one, keep you accountable, to really give you the information that's necessary to make that transformation. But as I have gone through the IHP program now, that is huge. Like that's this little weight loss thing. It's like this, right? Changing your actual body composition, that's easy. Right. The rest of it, that's the practice, the meditation, lowering your cortisol levels because you're not stressed out all the time, but understanding how we can, lower those levels by meditation or some yoga, some somatic movement, those kinds of things. That's huge because when our cortisol levels are high, our stress is high, your body's just going to store fat. Right? It's just going to store it because it's protecting itself from all of that stress that's in there. And those little incremental shifts, like we talked about, of maybe you should get on a different kind of a coffee or, not drink as much coffee because those acidic things, so that's easy shifts. I think, little easy shifts in your diet. Those are all things that are super simple. Drink more water. Get off the screen. Don't watch the screen after a certain time of day. All those things that help to change our mindset. Get better sleep.
Sleep hygiene. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
reducing cortisol levels. Sure. Yeah.
Those three things, drink more water, move around more, get better sleep. Those would be my three things. Awesome. The rest of it's easy. Shifting what you're putting in your mouth is somewhat easy. I mean, I can teach you that. That's an easy teach. Whether, putting the fork down sometimes is a challenge.
Yeah. And I would even potentially just tweak our verbiage a little bit. I would say it's simple, right? Yeah. Like, this is where even the work, like, did you notice the three themes that she mentioned that we've been talking about within? The first is, helping you create a simple approach or having a simple system that's principle based, which you talked about. Let's create a baseline. Let's figure out where we are. Let's put that trail marker in the trail and say, that's where I am today. Right? So then when I look back 6 weeks from now or whatever that is, I can look back and go, oh, look how far I've come. Right. So first off, having a simple system that has a set of principles to it, which what I heard was setting the baseline. The second one was okay, now how everybody says you got to work on your mindset. You got to work on your mindset. You got to be disciplined. All right. And there's all these messages out there that we got to be a certain way. Now, whether you're following, and I give these two different examples, and I love both of these human beings, but I think they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. And I'm not like either of them. One is David Goggins. You can't hurt me and you need more discipline. It's time to get hard. Right. And that works for some people, but it's not sustainable. The other one's Michael Singer. And he's telling us, just take the whole entire universe and it's impersonal. All you gotta do is let go and everything works out for the best. I'm like, sounds nice, Mickey, but it's hard to sustain as well. So the truth is somewhere in the middle. And the idea is that there is a level of how behind that you can help with when it comes to the mindset, right? And then beyond that, the third thing that you said was accountability or a team, people coming together. I mean, imagine being in a group of 4 to 6 people who all have a common goal and all learning these principles, how to integrate them and help and cheering each other on and sharing their stories and not feeling alone anymore, right? It's these three things that we have found. If you want to achieve your goals in life, I don't care what they are. In this situation, we're talking about weight loss. If you want to achieve it, even I and Heidi are joining a fitness program that we are putting out. We have a coach who's going to run what's called integrated fitness. It starts in the first part of September. Her and I need the accountability, right?
Yeah.
We're the ones who wrote all these programs and do the podcasts and whatever else. And we see the need to have a system that's simplified. We see the need to be able to be taught how to step by step integrate these systems into our life in an incremental way. And then we see the need for us to have a coach and to have a team and to be held accountable. And if we have those three things in life, like we will steamroll our goals. steamroll them.
Yeah, it's so powerful. I read a stat recently, like people who tell their goal, if you just tell your goal to one other person, you're 65% more likely to achieve that goal. Imagine being in a group with other people with a similar goal. Doesn't mean you're all in the same place, right? Barb, in some of your groups, someone may have 100 pounds to lose and someone may have 15, right? But the goal is the same, to change the mindset, to change the habits, to become a different version of yourself that achieves that goal through the process, through these small incremental shifts and following a plan that is principle based and is in the right progression, right? To learn these things. So I think there's so much information out there, especially when it comes to mindset stuff. There's so much out there, like Ryan said, on one spectrum or the other and everywhere in between. And it can be really easy to get lost in this sort of endless rabbit hole of listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos and taking this course for $49 over here and, another one for $97 over here. And there's no community, there's no accountability, there's no actual support from another human being. And it's no wonder why so many people feel frustrated, because there's a lot out there that is well intended, but it's really not setting people up for the success that they need to have to actually achieve these goals, and not just achieve the goal, but sustain it.
Yeah. And I think remembering that, we're all, in changing chapters constantly, we're all evolving. And so what worked when I was 25 or even when I was first introduced to the Isagenix program is totally different than the way that I use the products now in my 50s. It changed completely, and I think that that's part of the coaching, is understanding that, when you buy one of those programs online, they don't necessarily take into consideration what chapter of life you're in. If you're a mom and you're super busy, your life is super stressed, or you're working full time, and, it's very different than if you're, later in life and you're retired, menopause, all of those factors, hormones, all of that comes into play. And so, someone who can give you some information on that and coach you through that is huge. Otherwise, you are just beating your head against the wall with these $20 programs out there. Which probably all work if they're at the right time of your life and with some accountability, some coaching.
Yeah, we have to be able to personalize it to where we are in life. Absolutely. And that's why just a set of principles is so incredibly important.
And having that compassion for yourself, like at this stage of my life, I need way more compassion for myself than I probably did, 20 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you recognize it more, right?
Yeah. It's just that your body
you probably needed it, but you didn't recognize it.
Yeah, that's probably true.
You were too busy. You were too busy to slow down to recognize what was happening, right?
I might have needed more compassion back then, probably.
Right.
I'm recognizing it now for sure.
In this day and age, a 16-year-old might need more compassion than we do. So, Well, thank you, Barb, for your time. As always, just love time we get together and just share any sort of space together. Just absolutely.
So fun.
Appreciate you. And so thank you for being on this journey with us and sharing your time and your knowledge. And I would just highly encourage anybody that, and no pressure, but just give yourself the opportunity to connect with Barb and to learn more of what it would look like to be able to have access to a simplified system that's principle based, to be able to have access to the information and the practices that lead towards integrating and becoming the version of you that can reach your goals, and to have access to accountability, a team, and a community of like-minded people who are all here to achieve their goals, right? And so if it at all sparks any interest, I highly encourage you to reach out to Barb, and I'm sure that we'll put links and all kinds of things within this podcast. Yeah,
I want to say, don't be shy, because Barb is like one of the sweetest, kindest, most compassionate people that I know. I mean that, Barb, about you. You're just I would say you're very approachable. Like you're very open and easy to talk to. And I think that's important to people when they're coming to someone, just to explore the idea of getting some help with some of these things. It can be kind of intimidating. So I'm going to put the link to get in touch with you, Barb, here in the show notes. And that way, if someone wants to reach out, they can just have a conversation with you. And
conversation, if they're local, we can just meet somewhere. If you're not, then we could just do this, Zoom in or have a conversation over the phone. But yeah, and I might not be the right coach. I think that's important too. That's why in IHP we have multiple coaches, because it has to be the right fit. You're spending a lot of time together. And as I go forward now, helping people lose weight or reach these goals, this is the bigger component of it than the other. I'm offering the other, obviously, but really, this is what is going to make the changes that I'm looking to help people with.
Yeah, I've heard so many awesome things, Barb, about you facilitating the program, results that people are getting working with you. So I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing, because we talk about impact makers. You are out there making an impact, and we're grateful for you.
It's been so inspiring to be part of it. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your time, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you for listening. Remember, leaders go first, alignment matters, and the environment that you create is the legacy you'll leave. We'll see you on the next episode.